Hello, travelers. Here for another read aloud. So cozy up, maybe get yourself a cup of tea, and let's dive in. Here representing my Nantucket Public Schools. Figure it's a good way to go. So, Mendenbar has headed off he's planning to go meet Kazul because she is king of the dragons. And this was a recommendation from Morwen, who was able to identify that the scales that he found belonged to only one dragon, but looked like they were from many. Here we go. Chapter 4, in which a wizard pays a visit. When Mendenbar got back to his castle, the first person he saw was Willin, standing in the doorway, looking relieved. By the time Mendenbar got within earshot, however, the elf's expression had changed to a ferocious scowl. "I'm happy to see that your majesty has returned safely," Willin said stiffly. "I was about to send a party out to search for you." "Willin, that's ridiculous." Mendenbar broke off as his brain caught up with him. Willin might fuss and complain about the king playing hooky, but he wouldn't send someone out to look for him for any reason without more reason than irritation. What happened? Willin unbent very slightly. "Your majesty has an unexpected visitor." He paused. "At least, I presume it's unexpected." "Don't frown at me like that," Mendenbar said. "I certainly didn't expect anyone. If I had, I'd have told you." "So I'd assumed," Willin said, relaxing a little more. "And since your majesty is not forgetful in the normal way of things, I felt sure you would not have left the palace so excuse me, tripping up on myself. Like this, if you had an appointment." "Who is it?" Mendenbar asked. "Not another complaint from the dark morning elves, I hope." "If it is, you can tell them I won't see them. I've had enough of their whining, and I've got more important things to attend to right now." "No," said Willin. "It's Zeminar, the head of the Society of Wizards." "Oh, Lord," Mendenbar said. He had only met the head wizard once before, at his coronation 3 years earlier, and he didn't like the man much then. Still, the Society of Wizards was a powerful group, and its members were not the sort of people it was a good idea to offend. He ran a hand distractedly through his hair. How long has he been waiting? What does he want? "He's only been here for a few minutes," Willin reassured him. The elf's frown returned. "He refused to tell me his business, your majesty. He said it was a matter of your majesty's ears alone." "He would," Mendenbar muttered. "As I recall, he's got an exaggerated idea of his own importance." What do you all think of that? Do you think Zeminar thinks he's more important than he actually is? I think he thinks he's pretty cool. "Your majesty," said Willin, clearly shocked by his plain speaking. The head wizard of the Society of Wizards is a person of great distinction." "He certainly thinks so," Mendenbar said. "Oh, don't worry. I won't say anything improper when I'm talking to him. Where is he?" "I asked him to wait in the main audience chamber." "Good. I'll go and see what he wants. You take these down to the kitchen." Mendenbar handed Morwen's jugs of cider to Willin. The elf blinked in puzzled surprise. Before Willin had any time to collect himself, Mendenbar grabbed a handful of magic and twisted hard. The courtyard faded into white mist. An instant later, the mist evaporated, leaving Mendenbar standing in the middle of his study. The wooden gargoyle in the corner immediately began shouting at him. You've got a lot of nerve waltzing in as if nothing happened. I bet you thought that trick with the soapy water was funny. You'll be sorry for it when the wood up here starts to rot from the damp. You wait and see." "That's why you're there," Mendenbar said as he set the book that Morwen had given him on his desk. "You're supposed to let us know if the wood starts to go bad or if we get termites, so we can fix it before the castle falls apart." "And look at all the thanks I get," the gargoyle complained. Water in my ears, soap in my eyes. How would you expect me to do my job if I can't see? Mendenbar listened with half an ear while he rummaged through his desk. The gold circlet he wore for official business was at the bottom, under a pile of old envelopes and out-of-date invitations to balls, dinner parties, birthday parties, cricket games, and teas. He put the circlet on, and Mendenbar frowned at the drawer, wondering why he was saving all that useless paper. He resolved for the 100th time that week to clean everything out someday soon. Shoved the drawer closed and glanced around to make sure he hadn't forgotten anything. Are you listening to me? The gargoyle yelled. Of course not, Mendenbar said. I never do when you're being insulting. Insulting? You want insulting? I'll give you insulting. You always dress funny. You got feet like an elephant. Your nose is too big and your ears stick out. Not much compared to yours, said Mendenbar cheerfully as he crossed to the door. Stop grousing. If you can see my nose from up there, there's nothing wrong with your eyes. Your hair is a bird's nest, the gargoyle shouted just before the door closed behind Mendenbar. A bird's nest! Do you hear me? Mendenbar rolled his eyes and headed down the corridor toward the main audience chamber. He supposed he would have to apologize to the gargoyle sooner or later, unless he could figure out a way to muffle the noise while he worked. Maybe he could enchant a pair of earplugs to keep out the gargoyle's voice and nothing else. A spell that specific would be tricky, but it would be worth it just to see the gargoyle's face when it realized Mendenbar didn't mind its chatter. Mendenbar smiled and pushed open the rear door of the audience chamber. Zeminar turned as Mendenbar entered, and the blue and gray robes he wore flared around him. His face was just as sharp and angular as Mendenbar remembered. Giving Mendenbar a long, appraising look, Zeminar bowed his head in greeting. Your Majesty. Welcome, head wizard, Mendenbar said, bowing slightly in return. Something tugged gently at his mind, distracting him. The strands of magic, which were always particularly plentiful inside the castle, were drifting slowly toward the staff that Zeminar carried. In another minute or two, they would begin winding around Zeminar's staff like a thread winding onto a spool. Before long, the wizard's staff would absorb them, leaving a tangled knot in the orderly net of magic, and Mendenbar would have to spend hours straightening it out later. It happened every time a wizard came to the enchanted forest, and it was very inconvenient. Mendenbar had gotten tired of asking wizards to keep their staffs from soaking up magic. They hardly ever understood what he was talking about, and if he did manage to make it clear, they generally got upset and indignant. He didn't want to upset the head of the Society of Wizards, but he didn't want to spend his afternoon cleaning up the magical mess in the middle of his castle either. He reached out with a mental hand and nudged the invisible cords away from the staff. Zeminar didn't seem to notice. I have come to see you about a matter of much urgency to the Society of Wizards, he said, stroking his long gray beard pretentiously. I hope you'll be willing to assist us. Well, that depends on the kind of help that you're asking for, Mendenbar replied. There are some things I won't do, and a few that I can't. I'm sure you understand. Entirely, Zeminar said, though he sounded a little put out, as if he had hoped to get Mendenbar to agree quickly without asking any awkward questions. Mendenbar felt like rolling his eyes in exasperation. Everyone who lived in the enchanted forest knew better than to make a promise without knowing what they were promising. Did this wizard think that Mendenbar was stupid just because he was young? We in the Society of Wizards have been having a great deal of difficulty recently with the dragons in the Mountains of Mourning, Zeminar went on. That is the root of the problem. I don't think I can help you with the dragons, Mendenbar said. The strands of magic were drifting toward the wizard's staff again, and he gave them another nudge. The Mountains of Mourning aren't part of the enchanted forest, so I can't just order the dragons to behave. Now, if you were having trouble with the elves, I might be able... Naturally, we don't wish to involve you in our dispute, Zeminar interrupted smoothly. However, one of the results of our quarrel is that the King of the Dragons has cut off the Society's access to the Caves of Fire and Night. I'm sure you all remember why Kazul did that. Why did we cut off access to the Caves of Fire and Night? You guys remember what they did? Write it below. I don't see. The caves are the source of many ingredients we use in our spells. Zeminar broke in once more. They are also the only place it's possible to make certain items that we need for our research. He paused and blinked, fingering his staff with one hand, as if he thought there might be a rough spot somewhere along it, and he was trying to find it without attracting attention. We, the Society of Wizards, must have some way of entering the caves. Go on. Mendenbar tried not to sound as irritated as he felt. He did not like Zeminar's lecturing tone. He was tired of being interrupted, and he still did not see what the wizard's dispute with the dragons had to do with him. On top of that, the invisible threads of magic were moving towards Zeminar's staff again, almost as if something were sucking them in. Mendenbar yanked at them hard, wishing he could do the same with the head wizard. That's where you come in, Your Majesty, Zeminar said. He sounded vaguely confused, as if he were trying to concentrate on two things at once. What do you think he's trying to concentrate on? You, could be of great use. That is, you could help us enormously. How? The strands of magic were gliding toward the staff more quickly than ever. Mendenbar could see that if he kept pulling at them, he would soon be unable to pay attention to anything else. He thought for a moment, while Zeminar rambled, then took hold of a fat, invisible cord with a swift gesture, threw it in a loop around Zeminar. The loop hovered 3 feet away from the head wizard in all directions, spinning slowly. Other cords floated toward it and glanced off before they came anywhere near Zeminar or his staff. Mendenbar smiled slightly. The head wizard broke off his speech mid-sentence. What was that? He demanded. I beg your pardon? Mendenbar said with dignity. As the ruler of the enchanted forest, there are sometimes matters that require my immediate attention. I have dealt with this one. Zeminar frowned, plainly taken aback. You have? But I didn't sense any spell. He stopped short, staring at Mendenbar in consideration. You would not, Mendenbar said in an offhand manner. Inwardly, he smiled. Apparently, wizards could feel normal spellcasting, but they could not sense Mendenbar's way of doing magic. He wondered why no one had ever mentioned it. Undetectable spells could be a very big advantage, if he ever had trouble with the Society of Wizards. It's not exactly a spell, just something to do with the forest. It need not concern you. Of course, Your Majesty, Zeminar said after a long pause. May I continue? Please do. What we're asking is that you allow the wizards to enter the Caves of Fire and Night from the Enchanted Forest, Zeminar said. There is a way in somewhere along your eastern border, I believe. Yes, but it does not stay put, Mendenbar pointed. Nothing in the Enchanted Forest does, at least not for long. It's always in the same general area, though, Zeminar said confidently. We're willing to take whatever is needed to find it. Mendenbar thought of the enormous number of knots and tangles that wizards would cause while they wandered around looking for the entrance of the caves. He could barely suppress a shudder. What about the dragons? If you have no authority over them, then they can have none of your gateway into the Caves of Fire and Night, Zeminar said, watching Mendenbar closely with his hard, bright green eyes. So, that's where we're going to leave it for today. What do you think Mendenbar will do about Zeminar's request? And how do you think that will impact the meeting he has with Kazul? We're going to keep reading it later and find out what happens next. Go ahead and leave your ideas in the comments, and we can keep talking about this.